We don't have a table, so we will do that like So, yes, you know the drill. This won't work, I'm sorry, technical. Okay, so firstly, just wanted to say a big thank you to all the people that came to cheer us, because Guy won't do that, so I won't do that. Yes, thank you the technical people, thank you Anna, our coach, we love you, you're amazing, and thank you all the Israeli people that came, we love you too. And yes, that's it. We will have 2 points in this speech. Firstly, about why the old firms will actually succeed in the English League, and so will create fun to the Scots and to everyone around them. And secondly, then about why the Scottish League would just be better. Let's begin and let's understand why it is probable that they will actually succeed in the English League, because we think this is important in order to show that they will have fun and that their fans will care about them. Firstly, we think that they have lots of fans, right? This means that they have lots of money. Why? Firstly, because this means that the fans can buy merch, they can buy things of their teams, etc. Secondly, they can buy tickets to the home games. Thirdly, I think that therefore, that also it means that they have the backing of those fans, and it means that they can get more success by that. But secondly, they have a very big pool of local force of people that can actually join the teams, people from their own teams, etc. And so we think they can gain professional insiders, professional people to join them as well. But thirdly, we think that the English League has an incentive to actively add them, help them, give them money, right? Because they want to have the viewers that are Scots that will watch them more because of those people. They want to have people coming to the stadiums, buying merch, etc. And so they have the money to help them. Fourthly, we think that they will just get much more exposure when they are in the Premier League, and so it is much more likely that they will succeed. But even if it doesn't, they doesn't succeed completely in silence, we think this will still be a good thing. Why? Because it still means that they play on the highest strengths. We think that when you have a team that is seen as playing in the lowest strengths again and again, like for example, if we had Hadar and Ishai coming to the ESL break, it wouldn't be interesting, right? 2 years ago, when Hadar played won the ESL finals, it wasn't interesting because everyone knew that it would happen. We think that when the games just become much more interesting, even if the viewers are not seeing their teams as successful, at least they have the thrills, at least they know that something can happen that is different, and at least they enjoy that. Why is this good for the Scots? So firstly, like I said, the games are much more interesting. It is much more nice not to know what will happen, what will be the outcome. They see it as something that is much more exciting. But secondly, we think there is just a thing of national pride. Now notice, Scots have not so many reasons to be proud that are not about oppression, right? We think that when we get a reason to be proud about our team in the English League, having the success in those instances, it makes you much more proud, much more able to be united against this nationality, and we think this is a good thing. But thirdly, we think that just much more people are starting to be fans of the Scots team because they are seen as new, because they are seen as interested, etc. We get much more fans, and this is good. But fourthly, we think that the players' quality in the old firm just becomes much better because now they have a strong competition to strive for. This means that they practice more, that they try to do better techniques, etc. It means that firstly for them as players, they become much better players. They are able to compete on a higher level, and they see that as interesting, etc. But secondly, this is also very good for the other people around them that now see that as a chance to promotion, and so people inside of the old firms can succeed more, strive more, etc. This is why we think that the existence of the old firms inside of the English League is already something that will give Scots much more interest than in the comparative when they come to the same game again and again. They know that they can win, they know that there is not so many things interesting here. They come because they cheer them, but not for the excitement of it. Before I continue, let's take over. Yes.
If Scottish fans are so proud, why isn't there going to be more violence when they enter the Premier League?
What?
Why isn't there going to be more violence when they enter the Premier League?
We don't understand why this relevant this guy will respond. Secondly, about the Scottish League improving. So, firstly, we think that when there is two teams dominating the big league, it means that the other teams are just becoming much less better. Why? Firstly, they take all the good work first directly to them, right? They take them to in order to minimize competition, etc. Secondly, we think they attract much more money. The fans are their own fans. When there are other teams, they don't get as much merch buying, etc. But thirdly, we think also on moral levels, also on the mental level, we think that when you see the same team winning again and again as a different team, it means that you have much less motivation, and so you have much less motivation to even try because you don't have a real chance of succeeding. Why is this improving? But firstly, we need to understand why people will continue to see Scottish football on both sides. We think people have the incentive to see their local leagues on both sides in addition to the Premier League because firstly, it is close to you, meaning that you can actually come to the stadium, you can see the people around, it is much more interesting, it is much better environment, etc. Secondly, as I said, local pride. You still want to cheer your own team, you still want this team to be successful. You know sometimes the people from your team, like I know the people from Maccabi Haifa, and so I really know one of them. So we think that you want to cheer them. But this means that people will see Scottish football on both sides. This means that when the big teams are going away, now the small teams and teams that are more local and don't have such a big dominating force get more money and get more support. But secondly, we think that now the old firm has an active incentive to make the players in the little clubs just better because they want to get the workforce, they want to get the players from the local clubs, and so they want to try and make those clubs better and use them as incubator. In the comparative, they know that it will be bad for them because it will create more competition, but on our world they see that as something that can help them for the long term, and so they do that. Why is this important? Firstly, we think that people just get much more interesting games when the games are more equal, when there is a bigger chance of people suddenly succeeding, suddenly being able to beat the other team, and not just knowing that the game is lost from the get-go. It means that you have more fun. But secondly, we think that it is allowing much more local players to rise up and to know that if they are first to get their qualification and know that they are promoted by the old firms, but secondly to know that they can actually succeed if they actually do good enough and to even go to the Premier League because this is where they will take them from. For all of those reasons, we call you to propose.
And I have the speaker of that fine speech, and I welcome the leader of opposition. You're here.
I am an Ajax fan, but if Panathinaikos and Olympiacos join, I don't know, the Premier League, I would be very excited. First, two things. What are you going to prove in opening position? One, why your team has more security, more money, better competition when they're in the Scottish League. And secondly, why fans are better off. One, why they stay with the team, but secondly, why they're less violent. But before that, framing. What do teams care about? Three things. One, they care about their reputation. This means they want to win cups, they want to win trophies, but they want to win as well, also participate in prestigious events, like the Champions League, the Europa League, or the Conference League. Secondly, they want fans. This is important because it means that they want to maintain it. This is the main source of income. But thirdly, they want money. I'll prove to you why they get all of this. But notice, most of the mechanisms that OG says are uncomparative to other teams in the Premier League. All the things happen. Teams like members of Aston Villa want to train better because they will have to compete with Manchester City. I'm uncertain why any of the mechanisms for comparatives are going to be. First case, your team is much more secure because you're at the top of the league. Why Premier League is insanely competitive? 5 reasons. 1, you just have more clubs. This means that there are more players going to be spread out between more teams. Therefore, the barrier in order for you to have increased competition requires you to have many good players. But secondly, there is just way more money. But notice, that money is not equally distributed because there is no such thing as an equal distribution system in the Premier League. This means that the higher clubs like Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool, or Chelsea amass all of this money and therefore are able to use them in the transfer window to get players like Haaland or I don't know. But thirdly, there is a demotion system in the Premier League. This is highly critical because it means that lower teams, worse teams, massively compete in order to just stay in the Premier League. That means that even like people who have won the Premier League, that Leicester have been demoted. This means that just the entry level, the worst level of the Premier League, is insanely competitive for you to exist in. But for you, there is high amounts of prestige. So everybody's going balls to the walls to get as much things as possible. Why then? It is highly unlikely that you'll be able to compete. 3 reasons. 1, you just have worse players entering into the Premier League. This is because you do not have the same level of insanity and competition in your own league because you have no fear of being demoted, you have no fear of not reaching the finals. This means that entering into the system, you don't have it. Notice, you won't instantly get money in the transfer window for you to get Haaland. You won't instantly do this. Therefore, the chance for you to be in the trenches are extremely high. Secondly, if you do not climb the trenches, you won't get the money. This is because, 1, money gets by prizes. The better position you get in the Premier League, the more money you get at the end of the day. The better position you get, the more sponsors you get, the more audiences, the more people watch your games. This means that progressively, the moment that you're at the bottom of the Premier League, it is harder in the future to also be able to compete. But thirdly, notice that you have a limited capital from the get-go because you're from Glasgow, or from Edinburgh, or from Scotland in general, which is way, way poorer than the average borough in the UK. This means that your fans, A, have less capital to spend on you, so that it is less likely to be able to compete with teams in the Premier League. But thirdly, I think George will prove to you why it is highly likely you're going to get good sponsors like that. Okay. OG says that fans are going to keep you, and they're going to stay. I'm going to put in a later argument why that is not going to be enough for you to make money. Why in your own league, then, you get certain benefits? 3 reasons. 1, you have certain prize money. You're probably going to finish first or second because you're one of the top 2 clubs historically, therefore you certainly get some money. Secondly, you certainly get European League slots, like Conference League, European, European Cup, and Champions League. This is highly important because 1, these are critical prestigious events. Just entering, playing in the club, just entering in that environment means you can get 1, high amounts of TV money, but secondly, high levels of prestige. Thirdly, you're the top dog in your league, therefore you automatically have prestige. Notice, prestige is comparative. The moment you get more wins than your fellow competitions, you're better. Once you enter the Premier League, your losses start to pile up. You lose that prestige. You're no longer the top dog. You're just a bad team. Why then you get more money under Arsenal of the house? 3 reasons. 1, you have increased merchandise because of all of that prestige, because of that European prestige you get. Under their side of the house, in the long term, you won't be able to attain this because you lose this prestige, because you lose these positions in those European cups. Secondly, you get more ticket sales because I'm going to put this later on my fan side. But they might say, oh, but you get better TV deal under Premier League. 2 things. 1, the league itself gets a high amount of cut of that money. It does not trickle down that much to the teams. Teams are much more reliant on sponsorships in the Premier League and through the owners, etc. But secondly, I think that money is not guaranteed because it also depends on where it finishes. It depends on legal fees you have to pay and all of that stuff. Our money is much more centered. Yes?
If they're already playing in the Champions League, for example, Celtic, then why are they likely to lose the lower teams in the English Premier League?
Because there are fewer games, there are few incentives to compete in them, but I will also explain why they better compete in the European League. Why are you still competitive? 3 things. in growing. One, you get some transfers to compete your rival, therefore you get some good players. Secondly, notice, when you go to the European level, you have 1 or 2 games you play per month in the European level. When you're in the Scottish League, you have many bad teams to play. Therefore, you can relax in those games and play competitively in the European ones. This means your players actually play better when you're in the Scottish League than in the Premier League, where you have to grind out every single game to just get the title. But thirdly, I think you just want to get better because of the team and why fans are more violent when they're inside the house and more likely to do? Why violence increases under front position? Two things. One, violence between these two clubs is sectarian. It's based on religion. Celtics are Catholics. When they enter the Premier League, the vast majority of these teams are Protestant and Anglican, or at least the fans. I think that by transitivity, if you're angry at the other Scottish team that is Anglican, you're also likely to be bitter. But secondly, I'm going to flip Scottish pride and open government. They say you feel oppressed by the English. You feel like they have beaten you up. I think that point then, when they constantly win you in games, when you lose to Nottingham, when you lose to Chelsea, is the point where your fans are going to be upset, more likely to punch others. I think this is just an input that's important and extremely helpful, especially because fans can't kill other fans or brutalize them. But also, in the long term, the moment you start losing games and you are not good enough in this moment, is the moment that fans stop really caring about you. Because they have lost the competitive edge. Because you do not feel like you're getting these awards. Because you feel like you're straining. I'm an Ike fan. I don't like really big because I have stopped watching because you have keep on losing.
I'm going to speaker for that line speech, and I welcome the Deputy Prime Minister to here.
I have a long list of thank yous, but thank you for all the findings. I'm going to end my speech in 3, 2, 1, and. Panel, I agree that from very short-sighted terms, yeah, if you stay in the Scottish League, probably for the club itself and for its manager, it's probably better. However, this is not an act of emotions, and for the fans, it's part both. Let's first of all, why the fans are the most important. A, they're really the majority population within this debate, as in they're the most individuals. B, I think that for them, football is very crucial, right? It's not even more crucial for the player, like, football is literally life for some of these fans. I agree, opening opposition is something that you put in a lot of pride and a lot of efforts towards. C, I think oftentimes fans have far less control over that than other people. Oftentimes fans are indoctrinated into their clubs from birth. They are raised in some sort of other club, whereas players have far more choice in their occupation and what they're doing in their life, stuff like that. For them, it's literally national pride. Then, when you against violence explicitly, 3 things here. Number 1, I think violence is literally just the vast minority of cases that happen in general games. Like, that is to say, the majority of players don't even go to games physically, just watch them on the table or whatever. There, violence happens in the minority of games, in fact, the minority of people within their stuff like that, as compared to the huge sense of constant national pride that happens to everyone there. Even if one fan gets beat up every single time, the fact will literally change to millions of people for the better feeling national pride or to be upward. Second one, this violence is consensual to an extent. No, if you know that football game is going to be violent and you go to there, I think you consent to it far more. The important part here is that again, fans oftentimes consent far less, they're forcing to it far more because they don't choose the thing that they want to control in many different areas, right? I think that for them to feel national pride and attention to being indoctrinated to like HBCO by their parents, by the community, stuff like that, is far less consensual than the violence, and they can still choose to not go into these games if they want. But thirdly, let's actually analyze violence. Violence doesn't happen in every single game you are afraid of its result. That is to say, there is still police around that can arrest you. There are still sanctions that happen on you if you're doing that, right? For example, you can't come to the next game, right? It's the fact that you can yourself be harmed because you're being beat by the other side, and that your team then tells you, oh no, you did a very bad thing, that violence is harming us, and the violence is very terrible against us. Importantly, violence happens when it's the most uncontrolled. Importantly, if you play competitive games and your team did good and your team did well, the game was competitive and it was close and it was good, then you're not going to do violence. When do you do violence? When there are a major upset, when you came in and expected to win and the other team went in and fucked over. I want to claim there is more violence in the Scottish League every single time one of these teams loses. Because when one of these teams fucking loses, and this was the most unexpected shit ever, because nobody expected them to lose, The fans go batshit crazy that something like this has happened when they expected it to happen, when they wanted it to happen. This is a huge thing. Or the very least, maybe it's the case for a lot of them. Let's not talk about why they are likely to succeed within the Scottish League. Opening opposition claims to you're not comparative. They're not comparative. All of their mechanisms as why the English League is very competitive apply to us as well, the point which you get more views, more money, whatever. But note that the L brings two unique advantages that this team has. First of all, in the short term, it's likely that the team, when they join the Premier League, is going to get some boost because the Premier League wants them to stay in. It's a new audience that they're getting. They don't want there to be a disappointment. They want for the fans to stay there, to join the league, stuff like that. So it's likely that they're going to get in when they join big signing boost. It's likely that they're going to get like a good draft or I don't know how to specify football and so, but some sort of priority in getting in players, more resources, more coaching, stuff like that, in order to stay, because the Premier League organization has a strong incentive for these fans to stay, for these teams to stay, and for the fans to stay within the league. But second of all, there are still long-term advantages uniquely, right? Scotland is far more bigger than every single city in the United Kingdom. It means that you get more unique fans. It means that you can send merchandise to. It means that you have a larger pool of players who claim to you that they want it, that they clamor to you, that they want to join you, and that they're training in order to join your league. It means that you can collaborate far better with the local Scottish League to create a competitive environment. That doesn't happen today. The interest of the two teams when they're playing in the Scottish League, for the Scottish League to be as quick as possible, so they can constantly beat the strongest teams. But tomorrow, when they're not playing in the league, they have an interest to cooperate with the league, to make the players better, to make that league better, so the players within that league then move on to the Scottish, to these Scottish teams playing in the Premier League, and have that league basically as a new talent pool for these teams within the Premier League. This means that you have a lot more teams that then move on and allow you to get new players and new advantages over the long term. Importantly, finally, even if in the short term you don't achieve the best results within that, because the English teams are slightly better, then at least you're going to finish in a relatively middling place because of all of these signing bonuses and because you're not that bad. And importantly, this is still good because they themselves say the English league is very competitive. Everyone knows that, specifically football fans know it's very competitive, and it's likely that they won't leave you after one season. But over the time, the more and more they stay within the league, the more and more you stay there, the long-term advantages of you wearing like the middle prize money, the more audience, and the fact you're collaborating more and more, probably means you improve more and more over the long term and become competitive. And literally just you being competitive, right? Not even top of the league, but just competitive already wins us the debate. Why is that? No, yes, impact. The games become far better. You're not as fucking boring. You're not just going a game where we know there's a 99% chance for you to win. There's far more tension. There's far more excitement. Every single goal means something. Every single time you're going there means something. No, the biggest weakness of football is if you sit there 90 minutes and not feel a thing because the team's already dominating or nothing is happening, right? But at the point at which you get a lot more competitiveness and the games are far better, you enjoy them far more. But also, national pride. The average fan is not insane, right? National pride isn't automatically balanced. They have to justify that to a far larger extent. But national pride is important to individuals and it feels far better at the point at which they achieve that. So the fans are far more smart. But last one, more fans join these teams, right? Because now all squads can cheer for these teams. Not just the fans of these Scottish teams right now, but all squads, because they're the teams representing the Premier League, can both cheer for their own team in the local league and for the national Scottish team. So we're getting a lot more fans that are enjoying these games far more. All squads can now enjoy these games to a far larger capacity. This probably optimism in the debate. Closing.
Notice all these things are highly speculative. I have no idea if in 20 years the UK League and the Scottish League will be much better off. Why do I care about these individual teams?
See opening opposition structural reasons, see structural reasons as incentive capacity how that works. Now, let's talk to you lastly about the question of the local Scottish League. Already mechanized through, there is strong incentive and capacity to improve the Scottish League from the mainline football teams. Even if that's the point, the league doesn't improve creating more competitive games, at the very least, we're now taking away the teams from monopolizing the league and making all of the games far more boring. This means that not just for the fans of these teams themselves, but also for the fans of the rest of the Scottish League. The games are getting better, they enjoy them more, they can now take the championship titles, they can now enjoy them more, the players are becoming better, more motivated, more improving, they're trying harder, both within the Premier League and the Scottish League, so everyone are enjoying more, morale is higher. Finally, all squads enjoy this motion, all Scottish fans, they can enjoy it when they see their local team being far more competitive and succeeding far more, and they can enjoy it when they see competitive games with the team representing now Scotland and not just Edinburgh or Glasgow, on the National English Premier League. They get two levels of competitive games, locally, nationally, far more enjoyment, probably up to the OG.
I'd like to thank the speaker for that fine speech, and I welcome the Deputy Leader of Opposition.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's hard to tell. I just want to say one fast thank you. Many people have helped us throughout. You know who you are, I won't name people, just not to pick up the great stigma. But I want to thank one main person, that's Maurice Gutiel, who has been like the one person that has stand for us and has helped us like cope, makes us understand the game, deal with our seat and stuff like that. He has been the closest we had to coach. Very proud to pass through for him. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. OG, I love this. We've prepped throughout, and this has been a fair fight. But they have been unfortunate to have a sports motion and having a guest that's not enough. I'm going to take 3 classes today. First of all, why to become less competitive, therefore you don't like to fail. Second of all, why you probably receive less money, which is also trickles down to the first class in some way. Thirdly, about violence, and why this increases in us of the house, which is fucking immense, and it's going to be horrendous for our government and those governments. The first thing that they say is why you're going to do well. And they have 2 key claims. The first is you're going to receive more money, which makes more sense, and you're going to be more competitive. A, that's not proven upon government. But it gives you enough answer to the moment that you actually get more cups, you get more leagues, you get some type of funding. Secondly, to the degree that you actually exit in the European leagues, you also get money from the European institutions that actually is way more than what you get from the Premier League. This is also responding to the PYFCG, right? Because notice, and this is spec, but I think also average, right? To the degree that Champions League and the European League is diversified sports based on leagues, this means that Scottish League gets 2 teams going into the Champions League, Premier League gets 4 teams into the Champions League, etc. This means that because in the Premier League, the 4 top teams are going to be very fixed and they're going to be among the big 6, you will never exit the European League, which is the highest honors to be able to compete in the European League. So this means you're going to be stuck in the domestic league, you're going to be beaten down in the domestic league, you're going to receive less money in the domestic league, and you're just going to become an indifferent team that places either 12th or 11th. This is fucking going. Secondly, they say that you're going to become more competitive. They miss the analysis of why all of these things that exist in the Premier League have a competitive advantage. A, and this is fact, I really like it. Players are very like normalized to play every weekend competitively. The existing rosters are coped for this. They're balls in the wall. Aston Villa knows that every time they grind, they have to win like Crystal Palace or something like that. In the rest of the house, the existing roster that you have, and also like other players that are going to come through, I'm going to also analyze that, are not actually adaptable to this kind of pace, to this kind of physicality, to this kind of refereeing and all this stuff. Secondly, I think you're going to be mentally fucking stressed. To the degree that you used to be the boss in the local village and you go to the big league, you're going to sit your pants and everybody's going to target you exactly because you're the outsider that thinks that have the audacity to be able to compete. Thirdly, I think to the capacity that all of this is already competitive is the moment that these teams are going to dominate you more exactly because you play in their hometown and you have to fucking travel. This is fucking horrendous for these teams because every time you travel 3 or 4 hours, tiredness packs up, right? The staff is more tired. The players are more tired. The players fight each other because, accommodation and stuff like that is way worse. You're more time away from your family, which costs you more psychologically speaking. Fans are harder to travel because collective fans traveling is very prohibited probably in the UK, but also is very expensive. This means that your fans that actually matter the most, and based on the method of opening government, your fans that love your team will have less of a chance to follow you. In Arsenal the house, Scottish fans follow you throughout because it's very more accessible. It's more fun. You know you're probably going to win. This is going to be a celebration for you. In the rest of the house, you have to spend more money for the most certain outcome is going to be probably you're going to lose or you're going to have a draw because you play defense throughout in order to be able to survive and to have demotion. This is fucking horrendous for you, and I think as like football fans, you understand why losing consecutively is bad. All of this means you become less competitive, you get less money. The third thing they say, and this is the most fun I get from opening up, Scottish will unite around you. Let's see 5 reasons why that's not the case. All of the Scottish people have been beaten by you. They have been mocked. They have been divided. You were the reason why they lost every time and they couldn't, the moment they were third and they were about to get promotion, you were the reason that you got them beaten down. They were the ones that they were laughing at you. They were the ones that actually stealing your players, right? Because you have the most funding. When all Scottish people that are admired to become footballers and stuff like that, they want to join Celtics and Rangers. They don't want to join to join any other team. This means that these teams have been collectively stealing your money, stealing your players, stealing your points. All of this means, exactly because most people that are fans are very irrational and very passionate, they're going to create memes of you. They're going to laugh at you for losing to the worst team from the Premier League. They will not unite against you because they have every incentive to see you suffer, because they have suffered from you immensely throughout the years that they have lost. This is flipping actually opening up. Right? Okay. Let's see now why violence matters and how we're going to impact this. Before that, closing down, do you have an example?
There are a few things that can unite you more than a common enemy.
Here, here.
Yes. I hope you have fun learning this extension and convincing the panel that Scots people are going to be more pride about Scots identity and not football identity. Football identity is the one that actually matters the most. It's the most proximate identity because the team that you support the most is the team that you want to see succeed. And because you have seen this team losing again and again, this makes more sense to actually hate and sit upon the other team. I think we're going to also analyze that, but I'm going to play it. Okay, like in the best case scenario, even if all Scotland supports Celtics, it is uncertain to me how you're going to win the other teams and how you're going to prevail. I don't see how this materializes to any degree and how this makes more money, explaining the threshold of accessibility, explaining the threshold. So they have to prove that all Scotland becomes so obsessed and so proud about this that they collectively galvanize and give you donations. What the fuck, Cincy? Okay, but why it's very hard for this side of the house to regulate violence? A, we already gave you the nuance of the geographical proximity. No response from opening up. This means that the blocks that police has to settle are way more in the rest of the house to the degree that you have to do from Manchester to Celtic or whatever. Because if fans are traveling, this means that different fans that are very hard-rooted and very stupid are gonna settle, I don't know how to say this in English, in different locations that are gonna stab each other because of stuff. We have seen this spec knowledge from Zagreb and I have to mention this. Okay, secondly, I think to the degree that this happens more, it's harder to regulate. Because if you have to regulate only one game, which is Celtics and Rangers, which you have normalized, people know about this, they close their shops, they get prepared. It's entirely different to the unexpectancy of how many matches are going to spiral up, how many matches and which teams are going to fight, how many times are you going to lose. So therefore, the unexpectancy and the unpredictability of how many times you're going to lose is way worse. This means violence spirals up. Even if we prove an opening opposition, we win all metrics of that. But I'm going to win also this. Even if we prove that 5 people died, Algis Kalmanos died in Greece and the whole country was in pain and stuff like that. Even if we prove that 5 more people died, this is fucking irreversible because you know what? Death is more important than football in succeeding in national pride. Why this then happens most? A, because we explained the national pride thing, no response. 2, I think there's going to be more hatred and more bitterness within the team because you chose to leave. You chose to actually opt into this kind of thing. Therefore, you're going to be more hatred towards other fans. You're going to last out because you're going to miss out on the opportunity to go to the European League because now you chose this. But then thirdly, I think the less excited you become, because the less you win, this means you're going to be less competitive and people are going to pull out, they're going to be more indifferent. All of this means foreign opposition is getting also competitiveness, pride, violence, money, all positive.
Speaker for that fine speech and a lot of people in our government here.
Okay, let's start by taking the violence point. Because if we take that mechanism as it stands out of opening opposition, then we would have to break up every single competitor football league on the planet because there might be a risk of fans becoming a little bit violent. Like Arsenal people might beat up and kill Manchester people, so you might as well just abandon the Premier League as a whole. We do not see any sort of fundamental difference in the degree to which violence will occur on their side of the house. And even if it is 5% more, we do not see why 5% specifically should be a reason to not allow this, where we are willing to accept the marginal probability of violence happening in any sort of football and sports league overall. Note furthermore that the United Kingdom specifically has a great deal of experience dealing with violence at football games, calming down fans, separating fan blocks, making sure that people don't run into each other in public transit. All these sort of mechanisms exist. We don't see why that should be a debate-winning point. Now, a little bit of overall framing. Note that every 4 years, we have like international football tournaments, right? And in these international football tournaments, we have members from individual clubs that on the local level compete against each other and according to their analysis hate each other like irrationally, going together into one national team, which then has the support of the entire nation or the entire country in this case. We see no fundamental reason why given the situation that these two Scottish teams are no longer competing with the rest of Scotland, the same mechanism wouldn't apply. That now they are no longer seen as players of a specific club, but so to speak, players of the national team within the Scottish context. No analysis on why this deep-rooted hatred would be something that would somehow last for years and years and decades. Now let's further engage with opening opposition with my first main point of extension, which is the financing. Why the financing is obviously better in our side of the house and also impacting that. Note that the English League has objectively a larger viewership. Multiple reasons for this. Firstly, England just has a greater population, right? Secondly, they have greater funding, bigger stadiums, more streaming, etc. And thirdly, and also quite uniquely, they have international followers. An Indian friend of mine who lives in Munich is an Arsenal fan. Many such cases. You just have much more spotlight on the English Premier League than almost any other sports league worldwide. Why does this lead to better revenue streams, even if you are not like top of that league? Even if you are in the second English league, more revenue, which is unlikely, more revenue streams than in the Scottish league. Well, you have greater reach. That means there is much more sponsoring and advertisements. If like Nike or Puma or whatever sponsors your shoes, they don't need you to win the matches to still have that media presence via broadcasting that makes it beneficial for them to sponsor you. It's not contingent on winning. Secondly, more viewership in the stadiums, meaning a certain percentage of the ticket revenue will come to you. If you have physically bigger stadiums in more of the matches that you play in, then you get automatically more money by more asses in seats. And thirdly, and most importantly, you have a better financialization of the teams. Note that the English Premier League specifically is a great investment vehicle for people who are interested in international sports. And the point at which your next Qatari government or Abramovich is interested in you, due to you being now a member of the English Premier League, they will invest in you. Note that this investment happens at the very beginning, at the point at which you enter the English Premier League. Why is this the case? Because now you are the one team, or the two teams in this case, that are not heavily sponsored, meaning they are available to receive this sponsorship. A very quick and instantaneous influx of cash, which again offsets a lot of the harms that opening opposition would have you believe, because at this point you can immediately train more people, you can immediately fund yourself better, you can immediately do better, have better doctors, etc. All these things. Now, what is the impact of this? And you have English fans in Scotland buying beer and raising tax revenue. What is the impact of all of this? Firstly, local investment. You can invest more in stadiums if you have more money. You can invest more in infrastructure around it, having run-on effects that are beneficial for society as a whole. You have a net benefit. Second, you have more training abilities, meaning better sports. Thirdly, you have the ability to indirectly support other Scottish clubs. Why is this the case? Because the particularly wealthy and well-connected clubs, i.e. the ones in the Premier League or the Erste Bundesliga in Germany, are the ones that have the best novice training programs. They go out of their way to identify young people in their country and then train them and push them and support them. Note that only a small minority of them actually get signed on with this primary club, but all of them have benefited from the training, meaning that these external effects, like people who are trained and supported from a young age on by these clubs, can now join the other Scottish clubs, raising the quality of football in them as well. Opening, please.
If you are competing in the local rivalry and you are exiting European leagues, you have every incentive to receive funds. The uncertain fiat of Premier League giving funding is very marginal and uncertain on sustainability.
No, it is simply much bigger. Like UEFA and such international competitions are much rarer. The English Premier League is uniquely present not only in England but globally, amplifying the funding massively. Note the majority of the time that the Scottish teams spend at the moment is in local matches that just do not matter, that don't get you sponsorship because they're not interesting. Now let's look at the local case, why it's great for Scottish football. And this also ties in to an extent with my POI. So, on our side of the house, if you are an Aberdeen, on their side of the house, if you are an Aberdeen fan, then you cannot experience sympathy for these Celtics and Rangers because they're constantly beating you up. We agree with that analysis there, so you probably won't support them, which is kind of sad because then you have only one team that you can identify with, one team that you can support, and you don't derive all that much joy from football. On our side of the house, you now have a common national representative. We strongly believe that as soon as you are no longer competing against each other, you no longer need to choose every single match between Aberdeen and Rangers, between Aberdeen and Celtics. You are now able to support both. You are able to derive the joy of camaraderie from both. You are able to go to the matches of both, to hang out with the fans of both, and to have fun with both. Note that this too is not contingent on you actually winning the matches, because critically, one of the things about the beautiful game of soccer is that you can have fun even if you lose. You can be with your friends, you can celebrate together, you can scream together, you have this shared experience of elation and emotion which makes you happier. We simply have more of this due to the act of Scotland fighting against England, like just as in the good old days, on our side of the house, uniquely, in a nice game. Therefore, more joy, more happiness, more elation on our side of the house. Their financialization point does not stand, and we are not contingent on actually winning the matches. Very proud to propose.
I love when speakers run by the speech and I welcome the member of opposition here.
One very simple thing to do. If the Old Firm moves to the Premier League, Scottish League will be fucked, they will have less viewership and less possibility for growth. I think this is on top of our oath because they care about fans. I don't care about fans because they have other ways to entertain themselves. Identities are not unitary. I am a debater, but I'm a student, I'm a worker, I have a part-time job, so they can do that in other ways. Whereas I will prove to you these players specifically, this is one of the only ways to achieve social mobility on our side of the house. Let me give you 4 megs why Scottish League will be fucked. 1. No, teams have viewership rights. You have TV channels. Note that the info slide says very clearly that these 2 teams have twice the viewership of the other teams in the Scottish leagues. Panel note that if OG analysis is true about how the fans stay with these teams, which I don't think they prove, but if it is true, then it also means that these fans will not watch the Scottish League anymore, but they will watch the English League instead. Why is that problematic? Because leagues function in such a way that you play with other teams, right? You have groups, teams are divided, and blah blah. Meaning that Celtic and these 2 teams will play against worse teams, right? It means that all these twice the fans of Celtic will also watch the other lower teams, right? That's good, because if you have twice the fans, the revenue is divided to the other lower teams as well. They get more revenue on our side of the house. Secondly, note that also it's about tickets and participating in local stadium. If it is true that fans will move, or a significant portion of the fans will move, it means that these games will will no longer have a lot of viewership in the stadium to buy tickets, to buy beer, to feel good, to buy a cap, and so on and so forth. This equally fucks the worst teams. Like even if Celtic wins undisputedly, then these teams are also fucked because they don't get as much revenue because the popularity will go away. But thirdly, and this is very important, this is about scouting. Note that if you play with other teams, you want to scout players, right? But scouting will not happen anymore to such a large extent in the Scottish League. Why does it happen on our side of the house? Note that if it is true, as per all analysis that, or somebody's analysis, that the Old Firm is reputable, they go to the European League and whatnot, stuff like that, then if they are the best of Scotland, people will come watching, right? This is visibility. They think they have good players. They think they have players capable to win at a higher level, and so on and so forth. This also means when they see Celtic play against a less reputable team in the same league, they also see the less reputable team, right? And I don't think talent is only with the best team in the league, but you have talent for lower teams as well. That's important because you wouldn't otherwise watch the lower team panel, and that's crucial because you go now watch Premier League, but you no longer watch the Scottish League, and you no longer watch the Scottish players in the first place. But secondly, know that when you play with other teams, probably it's a sunk cost if you do not do scouting at the same time, right? So if you're now in Premier League and play against the team, it's much more easier for you to have your analyst and then do the match analytics there and see whether you can scout from Premier League as opposed to scouting from the Scottish League, and so on and so forth. This means that it's easier for you to spot talent that you can grow, and arguably this talent is also cheaper on your side of the house, which plays the team. Fourthly, no thank you, it's about private sponsorships, right? All my previous mechanisms also apply for sponsors, because if sponsors come and see Celtic, they will see, I don't know, a team from Aberdeen, and so on. If they have a really good player that makes a really nice show with Celtic, they are more likely to ask them to do a campaign for them. They are more likely to invite them to play in their league. These are simple mechanisms, but they show to you that players in the Scottish League will be better off. Why is this the tipping point? OG says, well, you have more competition because it's less boring, because presumably teams now can compete. I don't think this is true. I think this is circumstantial, right? If you have a bad fault, like foul, stuff like that, if each team has the ball, but they don't score and it's boring, it doesn't matter that they are at an equal level, right? You wouldn't otherwise come see the Scottish team if they have twice the viewership that now moves to the Premier League. This is very important for a couple of reasons. Before I move on to my way, OG.
European institutions are the vast minority of games. Ops only show that the Premier League is hard, but we show that acclamation is possible, using several unique advantages and extra resources from being in the Premier League.
Sure. You proved that. I proved that the Scottish League is better off, and now I'm going to prove to you why you should prioritize the Scottish League over all of the other impacts in this debate. Let's say, OO says Scotland is poor. Sorry, I'm going to give you structural mechanism. I'm going to use that case man that I did. First, industries have become less relevant, right? Like coal mining and shipbuilding, these are older, right? Secondly, aging population. This means that there's a shortage of workers, and then also you have to cover for more pensions, right? Scotland runs on a deficit to fund public services, right? Fourthly, there is a problem with drug addiction, especially in cities like Glasgow and Dundee, in post-industrial towns, right? And there's a lot of wealth inequality, meaning that a lot of people in Scotland will be in economically disenfranchised position, will not be trained enough, or they will be poorer significantly than other parts of Scotland. Why is this important? Because sports is the only way, or one of the only ways to actually achieve social mobility. Think about Messi, think about Ronaldo, really poor players from Latin America that made it really big in their career. How do they do it? They do it through perseverance, because it doesn't take as much to become a lawyer, but it takes perseverance to hit that ball every day, to train, to be seen, right? It's easier to get seen because you don't need to have an education, you don't need to be from a wealthy family that gives you resources to go for school without having a job, right? It means that if they have the possibility in the first place to be scouted, they will be much better off. Note that these are the most vulnerable people because they Scottish League. If these two teams move away, that's no longer the case. For Scottish players, votes you.
And I thank the speaker for that final speech, and I welcome the opposition with.
Oh yeah, before I start my speech, I don't have any sentimental messages, but Philip is called football, not soccer, you know. Okay, am I ready?
Yeah.
Starting in 3, 2, I think I'm going to note a few problems with CO and then move on to addressing the debates. Number one, on the whole social mobility argument about Scottish players. I'm not necessarily sure why this is contingent on the Old Firm staying in the Scottish Premiership, given that you have the ability to be able to move to other clubs in Europe, even if you are a very gifted, talented teenager in Scotland, which is basically something that fucking McTominay did when he moved to Manchester United in England, right? Similarly, the case as well as like when there are European scouts available, I'm not necessarily sure why that big firm staying there is necessarily the case here. Secondly, on the idea that your local clubs are able to earn their revenue off of the attendances from these local games is a bit tenuous as well, because the scale of the difference here is not explained by closing oxygen. More crucially, number one, that ticket revenue for the away teams is a minor percentage of the home team's stadium's revenue. So if Celtic play Aberdeen at Celtic Stadium, Aberdeen earns a minority of the revenue from the attendance of that game in and of itself, because if it's Celtic's home ground, they're the ones who are basically providing infrastructure. Then, their whole point about sponsors and the viewership and everything else that relates to it. This simply does not compare to the scale of the viewership and the sponsorship and every financial capitalization that CG offers to you. Because note, with the viewership, with the availability, and with the consistency of the Premiership that you have on CG's side, you have better financing capabilities, you have more viewership, etc., etc., etc. I think closing organization if you really establish a lot more on this, and if there's something completely new, they have to be why, preferably from both governments in this one. Let's now bring in OO into this debate. And I think the moment we answer OO's most pressing question in this debate, we automatically weigh over OG as well. Because, notably, OG's impacts are contingent about competitiveness, about the joy of the fans, being reliant on the ability of this team or these teams to be able to stay at least afloat and consistently within the Premier League in and of itself. One quick point of noting, CG's impacts don't necessarily rely upon the success, but just to further answer opening opposition over here, don't shake your finger on that because you don't successfully answer this. OG impacts rely upon this consistency. So how do we answer this? Number one, and this is the POI becomes important. When I ask them, at the point at which Celtic and Rangers already play in the Champions League, why is it likely that they're going to lose to the majority of the teams in the English Premier League who are lower down than the top 6 as they profess? Number two, they don't necessarily answer what the top 6 necessarily is or why that top 6 stays in place as a consistent mechanism. They assert this, but as reality-informed voters, you don't know whether it is the same top 6 teams that compete every year for the same time. But more importantly, you don't necessarily know why a new team entering into the Premiership that can compete at a European level, duking it out with the likes of Barcelona and Real Madrid, cannot compete with the likes of Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest, or your Sheffield United in the lower division leagues of the English Premier League. This is simply incorrect. So, this is where the mechanism now crucially comes in and takes out both OG and OO. At the point at which you've already had international and European standard players to a certain degree in Celtic and Rangers playing within the Scottish Premiership division, which is why they're able to dominate the Scottish Premiership division, you are then also able to compete sustainably with your likes of Tottenham Hotspurs, with your likes of Manchester United, who fucking suck at the current moment in time, who are able to compete more so with Chelsea and everything else that goes along with it. So I think they're able to compete themselves more sustainably here as well. Number two, and more crucially here, when a new team comes into the Premiership that employs a different style of training and regimen with new coaches, they usually have a surprise element within the Premiership for a consistent number of games that the rest of the league does not expect. We've already seen this when Leicester was newly promoted in 2018 and fucking won the Premier League, coming from second division, overtaking the likes of Liverpool, the likes of Arsenal, etc., etc. So this new training regimen with the new international and European standard of players is something that can achieve a similar amount of success within the Premiership in congruence with the kind of capital that newly promoted teams already earn. This is all unique from OG because OG never responded this way. Let's now talk about financial capitalization, and OG here basically specifically say that you're going to get support from the Premiership in terms of revenue, and the Premiership itself is likely to invest in you. CG here say that this investment does not rely upon the Premiership being gracious to you. This Premiership, or rather this investment, comes from market investment and capitalizations on this specific front. And there are two particular kinds of businesses that are very interested in doing so already. By examples, you already know how Chelsea has been recently owned by an American invested owner, how Newcastle has been taken up by a Saudi oil tycoon, and how Man United was basically an interest for the Qatari state royal family for a long period of time. The reason for this is very simple. The Middle Eastern companies have a lot of investment banks, have a lot of oil revenue streams, and they want to sanitize this money for greater revenue streams in the entertainment industry, which is why they're interested in football in the first place. And the American businesses are interested in the UK-based sports because of the wide viewership that UK necessarily has, which every team in this space has conceded to, which is why they will be interested in investing in this team in the get-go. Before I go much further with this point,
foreign investment is heavily regulated and it's more likely to go to a team that is more competitive in the status quo. CEO is uncompetitive because...
No. It's not regulated because Newcastle's was allowed, Chelsea's was allowed, and at the point at which the only thing that was compared was whether there would be other certain checks and balances, even those take a lot of years. Hell, Man City's 115 FFP charges have not been resolved up to this day. We're not necessarily sure what those regulations manifest with. But more importantly, this money injunction comes in specifically and is more likely to be an investment incentive at the point at which these teams enter the Premiership, and even if not immediately, and the next year as well. Because you see that these individuals could be a part of the European Champions League, they are an investment opportunity, they are a competitive team, and that's exactly what the Middle Eastern tycoons and your oil investments are looking for. They want further revenue, they want more sponsorship, they want more visibility, etc., etc., etc. This takes out opening opposition on competitiveness as well. The last thing to answer on violence is not a non-question in this way, so the only thing then is about how do the Scottish fans necessarily feel. This is also relatively simplistic to answer, given the fact that Scottish fans typically hate the English football fan, and there's a lot of passion involved on that front. It is relatively simple to see why games against a consistent number of English teams is regularly likely to generate the kind of fervor from the Scottish fan in and of itself. But no, at the point at which we become more competitive, at the point at which we become more financed, at the point at which we become more visible, all of that naturally flows into our impact as well. Which means at the point at which CG flows this, improves this, we're overall.
I'd like to have the speakers, my speech is close the debate. I welcome the opposition whip, your field.
sorry. I think that's silent POS, please. Raise hands.
I'll be on in a minute if you put stuff.
I don't care if Scottish teams that move to the Premier League do well in England. Because that, in the long run, doesn't matter. Because even if it matters in the long run, it doesn't lead to good outcomes for the people that matter most, and that was the speech. 4 words of weight before I even dig into it. 1, I think we should care about peace and vulnerability, our peace and vulnerability. Well, I told you about this already, but I want you to understand. It's not that we just throw the word in there. You care about this because it's about agency and it's about where you have most scale of utilitarian impacts. All of this debate relies on utilitarianism, right? If you talk about fans, you say, we care about them because that makes them happy. That's a utilitarian metric of caring about their happiness. If you say, we care about players feeling good and doing well and having reputation, that's utilitarianism for saying, these players feel good, these players get money, that presumably seems like something that makes them happy. No, you should care about what is likely to bring more happiness comparatively to people, and that is what we bring when we care about the most vulnerable people who have less options for social mobility when they live in Scotland and their city is less well-off economically. That analysis was in Wana's speech. Second thing, I think we have more impact if you look at the grand scale of things, if you look long term. Because I think they say on all teams in this debate, oh, we get this team to play better, or maybe they play better, or maybe they have funding. Great, how will that affect 50 years from now the Scottish League? How will that affect 50 years from now people who care about football, right? I think Wana's impacts uniquely are able to trickle down in the long run, because if you care about the Scottish League, that allows people to buy into this, that allows people to start having careers as football players in Scotland, that allows fans to think about their Scottish teams in the long run. I'm going to explain also to you later in the speech why this is not possible when they move away, but just keep in mind, I think long-term matters because overall the impact accumulates and is bigger. Third thing, I think certainty matters. I don't think any of the teams do enough legwork to prove a tipping point for why it is that what they get will actually lead to the outcomes. No, they say more money, or more sponsorship, or players feel better off mentally, or fans are nationalist. Okay, but certain impacts of games don't happen because of one of these things uniquely, right? It might be that the player is having a bad day and that has nothing to do with them feeling better or worse playing in a specific field. It might be that the trainer had a bad tactic and that is what loses a team a game. It might be that even though they have all the money in the world, they just have a shit tactic and lose. I don't care about any of these things insofar as it's inconsistent in the outcomes that they lead to. Because even if you have more money, insofar as there's comparatively enough money to allow a decent level of training for other teams, this is not proven to be the tipping point for you to perform much better so that the scale of that impact is much better comparatively. Even if you feel a little bit worse off, if you still have fans that care about football because football is exciting, then you don't care about, then I'm not sure this is the tipping point for you to perform much better off or for less violence to be there, because probably fans have competing incentives to act in the way they act, to support teams in the way they support them, right? All teams in the debate agree that fans care about success to some extent. What they don't prove is why they care, and they will continue to care about the success of these particular teams or about the success of the league in particular. This is where Wana's analysis comes into play and is important. What I'm going to do first. What happens when top dogs from the Scottish League move away? How that fucks over the Scottish League? Okay, I think 2 things. 1, training and resources go away, and these things have been the best things that have been built up for decades, and these are more important than other things like, it's about specifically how much attention we have for it now, because these are what allows the game to be better off, right? They say, oh, we have training academies. Where do you have training academies if the best training academies that built up the cool players that were dominating the league for decades in the Scottish teams go and move to England, move to the Premier League? Are they going to come back? I don't know. I don't think they explain. I think they say they want to move away. They want to help these other teams. Why? I don't know. I will also prove to you that they don't. But still. Second thing, I think it's in terms of excitement and football momentum. What I told you about 2
and investment and the fact that they care about momentum, right? The fact that it's not whether or not there's momentum for the teams themselves, but it's about whether there's momentum for the league itself. I think for the two teams, there might or there might not be momentum depending on how they perform when they move the league. But I know for certain that there will be less momentum when the Scottish League is less competitive, when the Scottish League is shittier, right? And they say, oh, but no, the Scottish League will do just fine. The teams will battle each other out more equally. But they themselves agree that fans care about specific things that have to do with very good, competitive, successful outcomes. Why are the other teams in the Scottish League, which one, have less resources from the get-go, two, have historically performed much poorer, hence they have been dominated by these two teams, why do these teams have the momentum and the capacity to keep being competitive enough compared to the competitiveness in the English League or in other leagues? I will take you in a second. I think it's important to understand that even if there's some level of competitiveness, they don't prove why fans and sponsors will stay with these. I think one spring on excitement can be generated by success in general, and in the long run you're likely to move because you're more excited about something that seems better, seems more competitive, seems to give you more chance of success. Matters here, even for sponsors, because the sponsors can bet on the Scottish team that's new, or they can bet on something that's uncertain.
99.9% of cool Scots will never be a football player, but they treat the game as a religion. If the Premier League won't be won, every game will be won. I don't think you are more certain than sponsors.
I get you why. Two things. I think one, this is factually untrue. I think in places that are run by drug problems, where there's little economy, I think football is something easy to do and accessible. You only need a ball, and you start up when you're 7, and guess what? If there's something that you do with your friends in the backyard, there's into a potential career. Two, I think it matters also just for being able to enjoy the sport. If you say about fans and that they just watch these things, great. Make them watch something they enjoy and make them able to watch it 20 years from now because the league still exists. If in 20, 50 years from now, there's much less investment in these leagues, it doesn't matter whether or not they want to watch it. There will be nothing worth watching. They will tune into UK television. Maybe the local economy will go worse off and the players that do make it will have a worse time the way vulnerability matters. They cannot trickle down these benefits just by saying, well, they want to invest. Because I think teams have other priorities when they are in the UK League. I think teams that play there don't want to put this money necessarily into training in Scotland. They want to make themselves better, and this is where they prioritize their money.
I'd like to thank the speaker for that fine speech. And then you all for the guys with the table, all right, with all the speakers. I mean, the result, whenever they tell us to tell you the results, the
Zio,
Ναι, αυτό. Το δεύτερο